Out of all the flame chasers we have met so far, none have raised as many eyebrows as Elysia does. Elysia, while seemingly close to everyone, it's obvious that she has certain secrets that she's keeping away. In this video, I will be explaining the reason why I believe Elysia was actually the 13th Herrscher and how she went rogue against her former allies. If you want more information on other Herrschers, which I recommend you do because I'm pulling a lot of info from that, you can check out my last video where I went over all the Herrschers currently known. Otherwise, let's continue. Okay, because of how mysterious Elysia is, we should lay out what information we have on her first in order to get a good picture of her character. First, many people think, or should I say, wanted to believe Elysia is still alive. Well, she was mentioned to be dead right before the end of the previous era by Kevin. While some could say that Kevin could just believe she's dead while she's actually isn't, but as you will soon see, that's probably not the case. Elysia was someone who was under a lot of suspicion from many people, some of which went as far as calling her a traitor. We saw that from Mobius. Just what could Elysia possibly have done to elicit such a reaction, especially from people like Mobius? So first off, I would just assume that whatever she did that made people consider her a traitor actually resulted in her death, as all the dialogues seem to be pointing that way. From the information we know, she was dead at the last moments of the previous era. That's after the moon battle against the final Herrscher. From Kevin's second memory, we know that Elysia survived the battle against the 11th Herrscher. This leaves us with 3 time frames where she could have died: the 12th Herrscher incident, the unknown 13th, and the final battle on the moon against the final Herrscher. I want everyone to remember chapter 12, where we got a glimpse of the previous era 12th Herrscher incident. And if you remembered from my last video, that Herrscher is Ren, previous era Sakura's little sister. So basically the summary was that Sakura heard her sister was imprisoned by the moth, and while looking into that, she also found out that the moth were using children as test subjects for whatever they're doing. She found this unacceptable and declared herself their enemy, and thus led to her breaking into the base to rescue her sister, where she would perish in her encounter against the 12th Herrscher, who was awakened after her sister died. Sakura was the only mantis who rebelled against the rest. Or was she? Okay, so think of for the flame chasers and imagine what their reactions would be if they found out their organization were conducting experiments on innocent children. Some of the reactions would range from a necessity to something that is unethical. Sakura can't be the only person who disagreed on these measures taken supposedly for the good of humanity. Combine this with the fact that some members in the organization aren't necessarily fond of one another. This just calls into question just how unified the moth really were during those desperate times.
君のしていることは人類を裏切ることと同じだよ。
人類を裏切る？リンは無実じゃ。あの子は何もしていない。勝手にあの子を危険だと決めつけ監禁するなど許さん。
リンの体内から特殊な崩壊エネルギー反応を検出した。紛れもなく彼女は第12律者だ。
崩壊エネルギー反応が何時？何時もわらわも体に崩壊獣の因子が入っておる。しかしわらわたちは人類を守る融合戦士じゃ。リンには症状がない。彼女は力を制御できるのじゃ。人に危害を加えることはない。何時らがあの子の人生を奪うなど許さん。
We can just imagine the post-battle meeting where they would discuss things that have happened. It's highly likely that there are many more people who disagreed on these measures taken, but they either haven't acted on it yet, or they are waiting for that one breaking point where enough is enough. And who can possibly be the best candidate for leading this group of people disgruntled with how things are run? This is where I think Elysia comes in. She was said to be someone who believes in resolving things by talking it out. She would obviously be very critical upon seeing the results that came out from how they treated Ren. I'm saying this because she was also against Kevin unleashing his power against the 11th Herrscher, that it would also result in death of many of his allies. Think about it. Could there be a certain someone who allowed the Sakura incident to happen? Elysia could totally have sympathized with Sakura and thus turn a blind eye on what she's trying to do and allowed the break-in to happen. This would also explain the suspicion that was mentioned in her last memory.
しかし、もしわらわが何かに恐れるのであれば、それは多分恐怖そのものにじゃろう。その意味がよくわからないんだけど。 人類は未知に恐怖を感じる。特に自身の常識とかけ離れたものを目の前にした時にな。あの誰もが戦々恐々とする時代、恐怖が人一人を、多くの人を壊すのはたやすいことじゃった。
Right now we have established that there could have been a rift between members of the Fire Moth, those who want harsh measures against the Honkai and those who demand a less extreme approach. This rift could very likely expand into a full-blown civil war situation, and I believe that what happened to Rin was the breaking point of this. After all the talks broke down, the people who want to see an alternative banded together with Elysia as their leader. To prove their point in this pivotal moment, Elysia would have become the next Herrscher and would attempt to break free from the Honkai. It's hard to know whether she would succeed or not given the chance to do so, but what we do know is that her traitor accusation can very well have come from this act. Basically some form of collusion with the Honkai. As we know, she's mentioned as dead by Kevin right before he went into the cryopods. That was after his failure against the final Herrscher. Kevin was probably the person who put down Elysia when she became a Herrscher. There's this one line from Kevin about his stance on Herrschers.
律者が人類のために戦えるなら、人類は人類の手によって滅びることもあり得るって、あなたが教えてくれたんだもの。
違う。律者は人類のために戦うことはない。彼女はそうだったし、君も同じだ。
When initially reading this line, I thought he was talking about Mei and Kiana. But then I realized that this Kevin is a simulation from his previous memories that very likely did not contain his current era experience. So there's no way this Kevin knew about Kiana. This leaves only Elysia as the only person that this line could be referring to. Why? Because Kevin had also felt shade at Elysia for making certain decisions that ruined his era. And what reason could there be to explain Kevin's zero tolerance stance on Herrschers? I think so far this theory have checked out on all the information we know about Elysia. But by this being a theory, it could very well be wrong, not even accounting for the mistakes I might have made in writing this. So I want to know what your thoughts are on this theory. Could this be valid? Or do you know about any information that I have not mentioned in this video that you think would have changed certain aspects of this theory? Let me know in the comments. By the way, this video does not factor in any details given from the recently released Elysian Realm Chapter 2 on the Chinese server, because I do not have access to it. But if you are someone who has access to those informations and believe that what you have will reinforce or disprove this theory in any way, then I would appreciate it if you share those things with me down below. That's all I have for today. Thanks for watching to the end and have a nice day.